Hi guys, welcome back to my channel. Hope you've all had a wonderful day. Today's video is my book date number 4. So I have finally finished Wicked. This book, I will get into it in a moment, but I just want to say before I start that welcome to anyone that is new. And if you haven't already, then please give this video a thumbs up and subscribe for more fun things to come. Now, this book challenge I set up at the beginning of the year. There are a few other lovely ladies involved in it, and I will leave links to their channels in the description down below, so you can head over and find out how they're getting on. So there's Museum Girl 135, Nicke Pearson, Laura Bolham, and Sparkly Princess Lynnette. I don't think Lynnette is following the questions that I set out, but she is trying to read 19 books this year, which I think is fab. So yeah, they are the lovely ladies involved. And yeah, if you want to check them out, then I would appreciate that lots, and give them some love and support from here. Okay, so Wicked. So I'm gonna just give you a brief, like, what I thought of it, and then I will go into the spoiler section of the video, is what I'm gonna call it. So I thought it was really nice to see a different perspective, because obviously we all know the Wizard of Oz story. You know, Dorothy crash lands into Oz, and then she comes across the Wicked Witch of the West. Now, so I think it's really nice to see a different perspective. I think it's really nice to get to know Elphaba. I think Elphaba is the Wicked Witch of the West. Later on in the book, she goes on to just call herself the Witch. But yeah, it's nice to see a different perspective, but I have to say I thought it was quite political. Like, political in terms of what was happening in Oz, the different places, etc. So for that, it was a little bit of a difficult read. But no, I thought it was a good book. It just took me a long time to read it. But there are parts of it that I did not like. So we are going to go into the spoiler section, because I need to discuss this. So yeah, if you want to turn off now because spoilers are coming, I completely understand, and you can go knowing that this is a good book. It's a bit of a hefty read, and it is kind of political, and it does jump from time frame to time frame. So if you're not okay with that, then I probably wouldn't recommend this book for you. But if you're okay with jumping from different time zones, so you know, when Elphaba's a baby to sort of when she's sort of growing up and going to college and things like that, then you know, that's kind of how the story goes. But yes, we are now going to move on to spoilers, so if you don't want to stay for that, then thank you for joining me for this part of the video, and I will see you as soon as I finish my next book. The book I will be reading next is this one. I will talk about that a little bit more at the end of this video, but if you're turning off for spoilers, then thank you very much. See you later. Okay, so for those of you that are stuck around for spoilers, this book. Okay, so it starts off with Elphaba being born, and like her parents and their sort of lives, and then she comes into it. There's a little bit about how they're sort of, how her parents are sort of coping with their lives and the situation they're in. They live in Munchkinland. Let me just, yeah. So it has a map, which is super helpful at the front. So Elphaba lived in Munchkinland. She went to college. Where did she go to college? I am trying to find it because. So she went to college in Gillikin, which is up here at Shiz, that's the name of the college. She travelled round Nest Hardings when she was younger, and I think she lived in Wend Hardings. Oh, it was like right at the beginning, but she travelled to Quadling country. Quadlings are like your low people in society. Gillikin is sort of your higher people in society. Munchkinland is kind of just your generals, and then the Vinkus is where you sort of rare rarer types of people are. So I know that she went to the Vincas later in life and she stayed there. Now, so I think there's 4 parts in this book. Let me just, so I can, yeah, so there's the prologue on the Yellow Brick Road, which just gives a little bit of a brief overview of her finding Dorothy. Then there's Munchkinlanders, which is all about her sort of growing up and the people that were involved in her really early life. Then part 2 is Gillikin, which is where she goes to college at Shiz, and she comes across a doctor who is a goat, and there's like the difference in society between animals and animals. So animals are the ones that can talk and can socialise and be higher up in society, and animals are just your general animals that can't talk, anything like that. Okay, there's 5 parts, I was wrong. Then you've got the City of Emeralds, which, and it does flip and chop and change. So obviously part 1, Munchkinland, is where she's a baby. Then you have part 2, which is Gillikin, which is when she's at college. And then part 3, City of Emeralds, is she leaves college. She, you know, she cuts off everyone and disappears because she has bigger, better plans. She doesn't want to be involved in the wizard's big plan, and she wants to do her own thing to save animals. So yeah, City of Emeralds is where she is where she's older. She's been away from college for I think five years, and she comes across someone she went to school with, and that they fall in love, and they are lovers. And his name is Fiyero. He comes from the Vincas. He is a Winky, which I found absolutely hilarious the first time I saw it. It just shocked me. I was such a child. But what really upset me about this book is the fact it does jump. Now, I was totally okay with the fact it jumped from sort of era to era, because I kind of felt like, you know, there's not an awful lot we can know from Elphaba, like when she's a baby or when she's getting a little bit older. So it does go from the really important points in her life, which I do understand and I don't understand. Now, I understand there's not much that can be got from her as a baby. There's not much that can be gained from her after she leaves college until the vital part that we do get to read. And then, basically, she falls in love with Fiyero. He is married and has children back in the Vincas. But they are in love and they are together, but she has this bigger plan. She's part of like a rebel group that are trying to save animals, but also are not doing... it's like a rebellion. People are sort of fighting for beliefs and things like that, and they're in love, and it's like a whirlwind. It all happens really, really quickly, and she has to do something. She has to kill somebody, and she can't do it, and she runs away, and then, or at least I think she runs away. You never really find out, and then when you get to chapter 4, which is in the Vincas, she has been like a nun or a mount rather, for like 7 years after her not being able to kill this person. But then we find out that Fiyero is dead, and it was like a horrific thing, and she goes to the Vincas to find Fiyero's family to be given forgiveness. But we don't really know what happened to Fiyero other than the fact that he was found in a lover's nest, and he was like brutally murdered, but nobody knows where the body was. So I was kind of expecting him to come back at the end of the book, and spoiler alert, he does not come back, which makes me really sad, because through the whole of Elphaba's life, she is constantly not loved and not appreciated. Like, her parents find her terrifying when she's a baby because she has like really sharp teeth and she's green. throughout college people just think she's weird and like scary and like not a nice person. She has a couple of friends and those friendships are kind of building, and then she leaves Shiz and it's like she's back to square one again. She's on her own and then she meets Fyro and they have this like whirlwind romance, and then that all goes to shit. And then she ends up as a Maunt for like 7 years, and then we find out that she had a baby that she wasn't aware of. She doesn't remember giving birth to Lear, but Lear is Fyro's son, so she keeps him close, and then they obviously go to the Vincus to try and, well, she tries to get forgiveness from Sarima, who's Fyro's wife, but it turns out the wizard has been watching her this whole time, and then obviously we get to the murder and its afterlife, and we get to basically, she finds out obviously that Dorothy came into Oz and landed on her sister Nessa Rose, and Glinda gave Nessa Rose's shoes to Dorothy, which is as it happens in the original story. The witch wants them back, and she'll sort of do anything to get them. However, we find out that Dorothy went to Oz and the wizard told her that she had to kill the Wicked Witch of the West and bring something back, which we know from the original story. Now, it kind of goes along the similar lines at the end. So, she has her broom on fire and she's sort of waving it about, and she gets shocked because Dorothy asks for forgiveness for landing on her sister, which wasn't intentional. And she said she will give her the shoes back, but she can't get them off her feet. And then, obviously, the witch sets herself on fire by accident, and Dorothy throws water over her to put out the fire. Now, we know that from The Wizard of Oz. So that part of it was okay. I was kind of okay with that, and they did like her thoughts as the water sort of melted her, because the whole way through she is afraid of water, doesn't go anywhere near it, doesn't wash it in the same way that we would with water. She uses like coconut oil, which I think is great, you know, fellow lover of the coconut oil. But yeah, it was weird for me to jump from scene to scene. And I'm not sure what the musical's like. I've never been. I have heard wonderful things about it. I didn't mind the jump from Munchkinland to Gillikin because I didn't feel there was much knowledge that could be gained from her being little to her getting to college. I didn't really mind the jump from her leaving college to, what's it called, the Emerald... bear with. To the City of Emeralds. I didn't mind that jump because, again, I didn't feel like there was much to be gained. She told us why she was leaving, and then we sort of came back to a new important part in her life. What I didn't like was the jump between everything going on with Fyro to her being a Maunt and to have been like a nun for 7 years. I didn't like that jump. I still don't particularly understand what happened in that space of time. I don't understand why she was very confident to kill Madame Morrible and then something happened and she couldn't. And then I don't like the fact we didn't find out what exactly happened with Fyro. The Vincus, yeah, that kind of was okay. She spent a lot of time there sort of trying to gain forgiveness from Sarima, who had no interest in hearing anything about Fyro. She didn't want to know. She wanted to put that behind her. And then obviously there were a lot of things going on with her sister Nessa Rose being sort of leader of Munchkinland and everyone thinking she was the Wicked Witch of the East. So there was a lot happening. It was very political. There was lots of people wanting certain people in power, wanting to overthrow the wizard, things like that. But yeah, the fact, I think because I love a little bit of a love story, it doesn't have to be a whole book about falling in love. But the reason I liked this one is because it was such a whirlwind. It just happened so fast, and she was finally loved for who she was. I know her father, even later on into the book, was still obsessing over Nessa Rose, who had no arms, but she could walk perfectly in these magical shoes that Glinda had put a spell on. The fact that we actually got a taste of Elphaba being loved, and then it was sort of cruelly ripped away, and then we never really heard any more awfully about it, that upset me. Because I was like, you know, she's had a really crap time of things so far. We've finally got a little bit of a love interest, and now he's gone and we don't know anything about it really. And there was a part of something that Elphaba wanted to tell Sarima, but Sarima wouldn't let her, so we don't get to find that out. It was a difficult time, and I did find this one a hefty read, but I did bookmark a page that, where is it? So there were a few naughty moments in this book, and her and Fire would meet up at her like secret home, and they would sort of talk about things, and it might get a little bit political because his agreements didn't agree with hers, or his, you know, they didn't agree on things, but eventually they'd sort of tumble into each other's arms, and yeah, so there were a few naughty moments, and it just says, running his hands along her ribs, down the tight plane of her stomach, she always brought his hands to her thin, expressive breasts. She would not be touched below the waist by hands. Now, I'm not entirely sure what that's got to do with an awful lot of anything, if it's just something particular that she didn't like. But the quote that I loved and I thought was really beautiful was, they moved together, blue diamonds on a green field. Because Fire had like blue diamondy tattoos all over his body, and obviously she's bright green. So it was just really nice. I loved the way that Gregory Maguire had just summarised their love in one short sentence. Just, they moved together, blue diamonds on a green field. And I thought that was so nice and such a lovely quote. Some of you might not agree, but I thought it was really nice that she was part of something that she felt she belonged to. But this rant has gone on a long while. We're up to like 20 minutes. So I'm going to put Wicked down. If you have read the book and you have a different view or a different opinion, then let me know in the comments section down below, because I would love to hear what you think. Just quickly, the book I'm moving on to next is The Shock of the Fall by Nathan Filer, and it just says, I'll tell you what happened because it will be a good way to introduce my brother. His name's Simon. I think you're going to like him, I really do. But in a couple of pages, he'll be dead, and he was never the same after that. So yeah, that's my next book. It was a Costa Book of the Year 2013, so fingers crossed it's good. But yeah, if you have any more opinions on this, then let me know, because I would love to find out somebody else's views. You know, if you agree or disagree with the fact that we needed to know more about Fire, let me know. But yeah, in the end they both died, and it was just horribly depressing. I wasn't expecting it to end the way it did, but then it linked in well with The Wizard of Oz, so I think they both sort of came together quite nicely. But yeah, that's everything for me. Take care, and I will see you guys for my next book date, hopefully not too far away. Bye.